customers will be more intelligent or savvy about where they share their data, how they share their data, and what they get back for it. It's the cost of inaction. It's the opportunity cost of not doing something. I think that's one of the biggest risks that companies don't model. And then how do you monetize it, right? I'm the bridge or the conduit between those two worlds, I would say. So first, they're building data centers. They're going to own the data centers and the data. I think there's so much drive, so much intent. And growing up here, the one thing I know about this place is that to go from vision to execution, this is a place that'll get it done.
Hey, welcome back everyone to another episode of GCC Tech Talks. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Stroud. I've got by me, Rahman. And today we've got on the podcast, Sumit. So Sumit's come from a long background in transformation, commercial, actually globally. I think you've probably done a lot of roles globally, started here in Dubai and has made his way back after many, many years. But yeah, excited to get into this with you. How are you both? You have a nice New Year's and Christmas?
Yeah, Christmas was good. Christmas was very good. Spent it with the family. I stayed here for a change in Dubai. And New Year was fun with my little boy. It was good.
I put on far too much weight.
Too much turkey.
All I did was eat shortbread.
Yeah.
I ate so much shortbread over the
Plum
Christmas
cakes, rum cakes, a ton of ice cream. I think I must have put on like 10 kilos in a week. Pretty insane. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, good. I appreciate you coming on. It's really good to meet you. So I think before we kind of dive in and talk about work and stuff, it'd be good for the audience to hear a little bit about yourself. You know, I spoke briefly about you started in Dubai and then came back, but you know, a little bit of a short life story would be awesome.
So I was born. No, I think pretty boring, actually. It's the run of the mill. Born and raised in Dubai, left 17. My dad was like, go make your own living. Don't live off of me. Be your own man. Harsh reality in life, but you learn fast. The engineering background, moving to consulting, South Africa, the US, short gigs in Europe, Canada. Ended up realizing that I actually don't know much about anything that relates to running a business. And so I took a very pragmatic stance at, I'm okay with the strategy and operations. I don't understand financials, P&L, ledger. So then I decided maybe it's time to educate yourself a little. So I did my MBA in Canada and then just stayed there for over a decade or a decade and a half. Met a woman that was crazy enough to marry me, have two amazing kids. And yeah, Silicon Valley, pretty much 2.5 decades, a little bit of department store, luxury, retail, pharmacy, the whole spectrum, but pretty much Silicon Valley through and through. So one leg in Canada, one leg in Toronto, one leg in California, one leg in Toronto, San Jose primarily. But that's what makes marriages last, right? When you're doing a remote job.
Absolutely.
You're not around much.
Yeah. Got to test the relationship sometimes with,
and then I thought it was just time to come home. I've been away for 21, 22 years. I thought it was just time to come home. And I think the region is booming. I think there's so much drive, so much intent. And growing up here, the one thing I know about this place is that to go from vision to execution, this is a place that'll get it done. There's a lot of other places that have the vision. By the time they get to the execution, and this is a lot like the startup and delivering any project, right? The fatigue in the middle, it's the messy middle. A lot fails. But I think the intent is there, the drive is there. It's just they need time, patience, and to get stuff done. But they're serious about it. So I think that with this region, it was the right time to come. So I've been back about 4 years now. I've been back again I sort of straddle between commercial and technology because I don't want to make technology for the sake of it. And this is probably the stuff we're going to get into, but I want to make technology to solve problems. And then how do you monetize it, right? And so I think I've been at I'm the bridge or the conduit between those two worlds, I would say. I understand it. I think I did do a decent job of it. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Yeah.
I love that. We got very similar,
Yeah.
I grew up here, then went away. And it's like something kind of draws you back to the region.
Yeah,
it goes back to
absolutely.
those videos of the ruler.
Absolutely.
You've got desert everywhere. And he's like, this is going to be DIFC. This is going to be this. These are the skyscrapers. And you're going, how are they going to build all of this? And then fast forward to now, and you think, they commit. When they say they're going to do something, when the UAE says they're going to do something, they commit to it and go all in.
It's beautiful that you have that experience. And this is part of where we grew up, right? So I would come back for vacation sometimes because my parents' family was still here. And I realized way back in the day, Burj Al Arab was built, Burj Khalifa was being built, downtown was being made. I was on vacation and a friend of mine's a developer. And I think we went into a family of developers, and we went into this tunnel where the water comes in from now. So I've literally driven in that tunnel. Crazy. And obviously at that point, you're just looking around saying, you can't imagine it, right? It's just, you can go wild, but you cannot fathom what it would be like when you actually see it today. And it's just beautiful. Every time I see it, I remember that day. It's beautiful.
I've got something similar. There's before we kind of get into it, it's kind of sending me back on a bit of a,
Well, I've only been here just over 2.5 years. And the change that I've seen just in 2.5 years is dramatic. I remember the first time I came to Dubai, Sheikh Zayed Road was a building site, basically. I think there was sand on both sides. There was no concrete. And the buildings were like literally just going up on both sides. But I've lived here, obviously I've lived here now for 2.5 years, but the change in the last 2.5 years has been dramatic, let alone if you talk about two decades of development. And you're absolutely right, Sumit. Once they put their mind to something here, they will get it done. No matter the cost, no matter the inability, shall we say, the lack of skills, they will drive people in to kind of progress their vision. I lived in Europe most of my life, like you said. You lived in America and Canada as well. I feel the vision's there, but not always the execution that they can really, really kind of grasp, should we say. And there's too much red tape. I feel there's too much red tape.
I think I was just going to say that. It's the control, right?
Yeah.
It's what can you influence quickly to get to that decision point, right? And in the US and Canada, it just takes very long. Here, it's like, move now.
Yeah.
Same in the UK. It's like you can't build an extension on your house without going through the 10 councils worth of approvals just to get some small building work done. Here it's, okay, I've got a vision. I watched an interview with Mohammed bin Gatti, just the scale and the vision of something and then standing it up. And I think a lot of these, I guess entrepreneurs and leaders here, they're in the trenches, they're building this with the people. And I think that's what you'd like to see. I think data centers are probably going to be a big investment here, soon with AI and everything that's coming on.
Yeah, I think the data centers are the things that are needed for the infrastructure. But I recently read stories about G42 now providing consultancy services to European countries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we're going the other way. We're starting to go the other way. It used to be the consultants used to come over here. Now we're seeing consultancy services being sent the other way.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I think it's a vertical integration, right?
Yep.
So first they're building data centers. They're going to own the data centers and the data, but then how do you drive actual processing and compute out of that? Can't just be left to the client you're servicing to. Then you provide those services. Then you'll get into analytics and insights. And they've got core, pre-site. They've got a whole plethora of companies under that wing, right? So makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's. I would say it's an exciting decade to come from this region, I would say. And I don't know how far. So I haven't really been following Saudi's journey, should we say, very closely like I have here. But I feel as though Saudi is going to be the competition. And, we always say competition drives innovation. Competition makes sure that everyone's on their toes constantly and no one relaxes. And, no one gets comfortable, should we say. I'm really excited about the next 10 years. And just so you know, Sumit, I actually moved here permanently. So I'm not looking to go back at all.
That's good for you,
it's one of those things where I think me and my wife, we've always wanted to live in this region. My wife's parents are actually from Egypt. So we've always wanted to live in this region. We visited this region maybe 3 times at least a year. So eventually, I think the opportunity that came my way to move to Dubai was my kind of stepping stone to building permanent residence here, should we say.
You know, I think you guys are the right people to sort of bounce ideas off of this. I have a contrarian opinion. And this is just based off of my reading and understanding, right? So I could be totally wrong, and I'm happy to be educated. When you look at the amount of investment, billions, gazillions of dollars going into data centers, and I think the CEO of Perplexity also recently started talking about this, and a lot of people are. Where does it end? Because if compute and processing to a certain level to scale personalization will happen on your device in your hand. The chips are getting smarter, AI is getting a lot smarter, technology is becoming smaller, more scalable, and so ergonomic. What will you do with the data centers? It won't be cloud interface. A lot of it can be host card emulation through the phone to the cloud also, but it'll be client based and not server based. So I don't know, in my mind, I'm wrestling with this. How much investment is going to be dead investment?
That is such an interesting question, because I look at it the same. Like, there is so much being built and we talked about sustainability before. Like, it's like we're burning a lot through these data centers, and it's like, okay, first of all, what's the ROI on this in 10, 20 years time when there are data centers everywhere? And like you said, the compute is client side rather than server side. Second of all, is like, when do we get to a point where it's like, actually, it's not sustainable what we're building here?
And where does revenue, ROI, where does all that come from? Right? At the end of the day, it's a cost burn.
But I think this where it goes back to, the companies that are integrated, where it's, okay, we own the data center, but we own the application layer, we own consultancy. So
that makes sense.
Actually you kind of bought into an ERP type system that's all run on their data center.
They're building an ecosystem.
An ecosystem.
Got it. And that makes sense. But companies that don't, then, to me, like, it's just, I'm wrestling with this idea of $1 gazillion going into building data centers when compute's going to be in your hand.
I think I've got a different opinion here.
Okay.
And I'm going to share it.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I don't know how much you're going to like this on it. If I go back 20 years, I was a DBA. Yeah, I started off as a DBA, as Tom pointed out earlier on. And the kind of servers we used to buy, we used to try and buy them for 3 years every time. So it'll be a 3-year cycle basically for those databases, and then you'll have analytical separate servers and stuff like that. And that's 20 years ago. And the amount of data that we used to have then, we used to think, wow, this is a lot of data. If you look at the amount of data now that we collect and we use on a daily basis, and I'm talking about just if we just kind of think about just a lakehouse or a warehouse, and then you've got analytics off the back of that, and maybe some automation processes. Yeah, just those things. The amount of data that you've got now is probably about 20 times what we used to have. Yeah, sure. I know technology's got better. You can get 20 terabytes into a very small bit of space, like you couldn't back in the day, shall we say? But if you start to question some of the things that the LLMs are bringing now about short-term memory, long-term memory, I think long-term memory is the area where those data centers are going to come into play. That's where I believe, and I think the amount of long-term memory, I'm positive that there's going to be better solutions out there in the coming years. That long-term memory is going to be needed to be retained, should we say? It's going to, you have to retain it in order to keep up with the competition, should we say? And I think that's where we're going to see the data centers either grow or be at 80% capacity or 90% capacity or whatever.
And that's an interesting point, but I think you've just defined a use case for data storage, distribution, and then how it's consumed over time, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily compute, right?
Yeah.
If you can compute terabytes of data in your hand, then to store the data do you need the gazillions of investments? Because I think that's happening for compute, not for storage. Because what they're saying is that the proliferation of AI will require X amount of compute power over the next couple of years, and that will require these data centers and cloud storage and etc. Again, I don't know the answer. I am.
Do you know what a question
And I
that
think it also
springs to mind
brings up all
instantly.
the governance and the privacy laws for you know talking about holding data for X amount of time. I think that also needs to catch up. We're kind of in this crossroads of innovation, speed versus governance and control versus ROI. And it kind of feels like a bit of a race to the top, who can kind of deliver the most, the fastest,
Correct.
and then see what happens afterwards.
And I think governance will always lag innovation. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Always. But I was going to, one thing that a question straight away came to mind, Sumit, as soon as you said that statement, was if you look at some of the foundation models, they're trained off of data off the internet for how many years? How long has the internet been around? So now, if you the adoption of the internet wasn't super fast, should we say? Because we adopted the internet, because the majority of people have now adopted the internet, we're adopting AI and LLMs a lot faster than we would have if that was the first thing that came out on the internet,
Fair.
should we say?
Very fair.
Yeah. So if the adoption is very, very high in AI, we're going to start to produce content at a bigger scale than we produced on the internet. That's where I'm trying to. That's where my kind of my thought process is going, because if one of the things that I believe anyway, and there's quite a few developers around me that believe the same thing as well, is in 2-3 years' time, there's going to be no content on the internet in order to train from. So how are we going to train? Because even if you look at bugs,
machine training,
Yeah.
because if you look at bugs, we used to, before we post it, someone gives their opinion, someone else gives that. You might get 6 or 7 different opinions, and then you'll come to some sort of solution to solve that bug or that problem that you've got, or someone's done it before, and you take from them what they've done, and then you might tweak it a little bit for your scenario, should we say? That's running out. Because a lot of developers have started to say to me that every time they go on the internet now, just to Google a search, not using any sort of, ChatGPT or anything like that, they don't find any content anymore on the internet solving any of these common problems that, used to occur. So now you start to obviously go towards ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever tool you use. But I feel that we're going to produce more in the future. I don't feel that the production of content is going to reduce. And that's why I say that if the storage will increase, obviously, and you'll need the data centers, but also processing power will need to increase because of the amount of content that we've got. That's my argument anyway. That is my argument, and that's my thought process around that subject at the moment. I don't know about you. What do you think, Tom? Do you feel the same, or because everyone's got their own opinion, and I would love to hear your one.
Yeah, my opinion is that with the way things are going, marketing, and you think design work and creativity, it's like this. That's such a big generation of compute power right there. We use Nano Banana for design work, whatever that might be. You talk about e-commerce, Omnichannel, spinning up. Going to an event, right? How do we come up with creative design work? We're not going to consultancies anymore to go do that.
Correct.
We're bringing it in-house and using AI tools. So I agree that there's going to be just a proliferation of data and the need to compute. It's just how that trend continues, I'm unsure about, is where that stays and whether it's, the big monolithic companies that kind of own all of these data centers are going to control it all, or whether we're going to, I don't know, probably. I think there's still going to be a need for data centers, personally, but I think in 20 years' time, we'll look back and go, did we build and spend far too much on these? We didn't need them.
It's do you know what's interesting? In the last, I would say, about a month, I've been contacted by a lot of sales representatives from data centers, trying to sell compute. That's never happened to me before. even in Europe, that's never happened to me before.
Is that because there's abundance?
Do you know what? You might have a point there. That there might be, because that if I look back to when Azure came out, it's about 10 years ago, roughly now, 10, maybe 11 years ago. And I first started using Azure about 9 years ago, roughly, give or take. And some of their early offerings as well, which, some of them were dreadful, like Synapse, for example. Sorry, Microsoft. But yeah, Synapse was awful, absolutely awful. But if I feel as though up until this point, for the last century, 10 years, shall we say, that they've been able to, like, demand and supply has kind of always met kind of equilibrium. Because they always say, from what I remember, working as a Microsoft partner, that if they reached 80%, that's when they was try and move people to other data centers in Europe if they could. Yeah. So I feel now that you might be right, as in that they're now at capacities which are way lower than
than expected.
Than expected. Yeah,
and they're aggressively trying to hire and push them. So just quickly before we kind of move on to what you're about to say, I've got a friend who's just joined an AI data center company. Okay. He's been brought in to do internal recruitment. He's like, I've got 1,000 hires I need to make in the next 6 months, and we are just trying to sell this as much as we can. Because like you say, it's like there's so much investment going in, so they're not short of capital at this point. What they are short of is data, customers, compute.
Revenue coming in, and this is in the region.
Yeah.
Well, they various regions.
Very interesting.
Anyway, I think let's maybe part the data centers topic for a little bit. I think we could both, or all three of us, could talk about this all night. A little bit, kind of more about yourself, Sumit. Do commercial transformation work, but kind of where's your bread and butter? What are kind of the projects that you like working on? I've kind of seen from your LinkedIn profile a lot of omnichannel, e-commerce, digital transformation type work. Is that fair to say where your expertise lie?
I'd say I'm a sucker for pain, so I like solving problems. That's one. But I think at heart, I'm a builder. I love building, and it can be products, tools, businesses across geographies. I think that's where I thrive. I don't want to know the answer. I want to figure it out. I don't want to be in a position where I'm asked a question and I'm like, oh yeah, this, and this, right? That gets boring. And we don't do boring. So I'd love to be in a position that is constantly challenging me. I've not lost all my hair just like that. I want to be able.
I'm the same, don't worry.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a good thing.
We've got character. We've been through life, right? But I kind of feel like I want to be waking up every day saying, I gotta figure this out. I've got to figure this out. And maybe I try and I don't get to it. And then the next day and the next day. And then it finally clicks. And that moment of euphoria, for a lack of a better word, is what I thrive for. Over time, I've taken on businesses that are dying and I've tried to transform them. Businesses that are from 0 to 100, 100 to 500, etc. Scaling businesses. Or you go into sort of like a corporate venture, build from zero, and then you figure out if you want to sell it, exit it, what do you want to do? So I think I've done different formats, but where I find that I can really, really thrive and not just survive is where, and this is so bad, like it shouldn't be a fire drill every day, but I kind of feel like every second month it should be a fire drill where you're trying to figure out a problem and then you've built, you've scaled, now you move on to the next problem and you build and you scale. So that way you're sort of building value within the ecosystem per se. That's sort of where I'm thriving. So I think omnichannel in the region, great place to start. We're obviously talking about data and AI, but if you look at data and AI across different sort of verticals in an organization, right? So omnichannel isn't just about running an e-com site in a physical store. There's so much more from an operations perspective: buying, merchandising, planning, finance, right? Demand forecasting, personalization, customer-centric focus. So when you look at all of that, it's literally like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube and not knowing like which way it's going to go because it's dynamic. Because customer intent customer behavior changes dynamically. So it's this ever-changing Rubik's Cube where you think you know the answer, and you know how you have the formats of turn it twice, turn it thrice, and then you get it. It just changes. It's random.
But do you find that it customers are more interested now? Like if you looked back 15 years, right, and where we didn't used to do behavioral analysis, yeah, and we used to go with maybe trends or some sort of advertising or some sort of market research. As in what we can find out about a person now is very different to what we used to find out
Absolutely.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's a challenge in itself. Trying to find the right techniques in order to follow it depends on obviously the product, the industry, and all that kind of stuff. I think the question for you is, how challenging is it for you now compared to how it was 15 years ago? Has it tiered up? I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
It's a really interesting question because in some ways it's easier, but in some ways it's very difficult to pinpoint. So data is about driving insights, right?
Yep.
It's not about building a dashboard. It's driving the insight. And so when you really think about how much more information can I derive off of the different data markers and signals that I have, a ton more. So that way it's got easier, right? But what insights am I going to derive from this to be able to speak to Tom as Tom, right? And not mess that relationship up. Instead, up-level that relationship on every interaction. So it's iterative and it's sensitive because you're going to take that customer down a path of, okay, I understand your shopping behavior, your clicks, your likes, your add to carts, how much time you spent on a page. I know your phone number, your email, or I have online to offline tracking, and I know you've also visited the store or you've purchased in store, and I have all of that data. Then I'm going to take that as like first party data and then try and attach that to like audiences and build predictive modeling on that data.
Yep.
But that predictive modeling, it is just that. It's just a model, right? So I'm going to test it. I'm then going to look at every click you've made from there and then put you in a different funnel. And that funnel will have a different set of like audiences to match your user behavior. Then I'm going to test every click again. So it's a very long iterative process and it's never ending, right? Because it's a living system. You're sort of like rewriting the playbook every time someone clicks on something because it's a new journey or it's a new funnel. And I think that part is really hard because it could take one experience or one bad experience to other for you to lose the customer.
Absolutely.
After years of sort of like nurturing that relationship, it's gone. But it could take one or two really good experiences for them to forget 2 or 3 bad experiences from the past. And I think those are the golden nuggets of wisdom that you need to find along the way, right? And so I think it's just relationship building, right? Like you have to move for that. And it cannot just be transactional. I mean, yes, every business will have transactional customers where I found the best price and I've been, this is a commodity and I'm just going to come to you because you have the best price, right? That's transactional. I get it. But how do you then convert that using data, insights, purchase behavior to cross-sell, upsell, or blow out in that journey across a household or a customer, right? So that part has become very difficult. But gaining that level of data is super easy now.
Yeah.
How do you manage then speed of innovation versus business readiness? Because there's a lot of processes, systems, models, and stuff that go into that because you're capturing loyalty, clicks, basket sizes, whatever that might be.
That's a good one, right? I think we struggle with this on a daily basis because there's governance, there's speed to market, there's that innovation angle where we don't know, we're going to test, we're going to fail. And then it depends on the environment also, right? Because traditional businesses, small businesses, large businesses, they all have their own sort of flow or rhythm, let's call it that, right? Depending on your size and your scale. And then they also have their governance models. Some have tried, tested, failed, burnt, and they want to do it again. Some are very, very propensiated in that direction of innovating. Some are in the middle where we want to go slow. And I think that's the challenge where it's the education, it's the lobbying, it's the showing results. Deliver small, but deliver often has worked for me in the past. So building the narrative to say, here's what we're going to do. Here's where we are today. Here's where we want to be. We're not going to literally pack up and just move, right? You have to rally the troops, and that's one step at a time. And what we're going to do in each step is we're going to test this. I build a learning agenda where I say, we're going to test this. If we succeed, this is what we learn. If we fail, this is what we learn. And the risk cannot be too deep, right? It can't burn you out and then you can't be bankrupt, right? Yeah. In Canada or the US, you'd be filing for chapter 11. You can't do that, right? So you need to be careful with the level of risk. So even if the risk isn't that high, what is it actually teaching you? So it's a learning agenda that you're constantly developing. And that's the test, measure, refine, repeat sort of role that it plays. But that has to be a separate track from your business as usual. Because your business as usual cannot suffer. You're not getting, in many environments that are not used to innovation, you're not getting a dedicated team track of 400 people to go innovate, right? Think blue sky. So it's often in a transformation project, you're going to find it's the same budget, it's the same people, it's the same team. Everything's the same. You're now doing 2 jobs at the same time. And this is very common. It's natural for many organizations. So I kind of feel like that's where you have to balance the risk, but you have to be able to deliver in small, digestible bites. And the minute that starts showing results, and it has to be data-driven decision-making. There's no emotion, there's no opinion, it has to be data-driven. And when you can show that level of value, then you can start to build on top of it, right? So it takes time. It takes a lot of grit. You have to be relentless.
I love the learning aspect of it. Like we're gonna write down our learnings.
Yeah,
we're gonna come together and we're gonna iterate around these and go, okay, for the next phase of this project, this is what we learned. This is what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah, because I think we have to be open about the fact that it didn't work, and that's okay. Because I think if we shut down or put on walls to only say we're going to talk about our successes but not our failures, it really shuns any sort of level of experimentation, innovation, exploratory nuances. I remember, so back in Silicon Valley, we used to run startup nights, right? But they weren't called startup nights. I don't think I can say it on camera, but it was F-up nights. And it was basically entrepreneurs, founders, very casual environment, having a drink or two, and then they'd open up. And everybody gets time at a stage, and they talk about their learnings from failing, not their learning from success. So I messed up here, and I messed up here, and I messed up here. I believed in this. I was convinced about this, but it failed. And it failed so spectacularly that I had to shut down. I had to let go of my staff. I lost money for investors, but I learned. And then I had another idea, and that has scaled or that has failed. And my 5th idea scaled. And this is why I'm here today speaking to you people, right? So I kind of feel like that was so important for anybody trying to, whether you're an entrepreneur, founder, senior leader in an organization, I think you need to be able to let your team fail and understand and believe and feel that it's okay.
I think the key point here is failure is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
No.
But sometimes you get cultural challenges where the organization isn't set up for failure and it's sort of frowned upon, and then it becomes difficult to transform and do digitalization because 5 years ago we had a big failure, we spent a load of money and it didn't work, so no one wants to go near a project that even sounds remotely similar to that.
I think, and that's where that mindset shift is, right? I think the mindset shift is, if we don't do anything, we're going to die anyways.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going to die anyways, right?
Yeah.
Our customers will leave. So I think it's the cost of inaction.
Yeah. Love the cost of inaction. I use that playbook all the time.
It's the cost of inaction. It's the opportunity cost of not doing something.
It's a risk. It is a risk.
Trying. I think that's one of the biggest risks that companies don't model. We model every sort of risk, but we don't model opportunity cost and the risk of inaction in a dynamically changing market, in an extremely competitive market. I feel like that's missing.
But play devil's advocate. You've got a lot of businesses, especially in the GCC, because it's a new country, essentially, in the grand schemes of things. A lot of the businesses that have been around for a long time have been successful. So it's very much, okay, well, I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing because, we've got plenty of customers. We're still getting more customers. There's people moving to the region. So our customer base is growing. And do I really need to do this? And it's, probably in your world is painting the 10, 20 year, 10-year vision rather than, okay, we're doing well now. You talk to me about, maybe how do you kind of play that when you've got a business that is successful?
That's an interesting one, right? The way I see it is, yes, the market's growing. Yes, there's more people moving. Do you want to grow your business at 1% or 10% or 40%? Do you want your business to grow 10% a year or 10% over 10 years, right? I think those are the questions strategically to answer, because in my previous life as well, it was more for digital transformation for a telco, but I think it was not innovative enough to think about where do I go tomorrow that drives a million more and a million more and a million more. And I think that part was missing because it was, there's so many more customers coming. There's so many more people moving to the region, but that doesn't mean they're your customer. They could be an extremely tech-savvy customer. They could be a customer that is price sensitive, or they could be the top 1% that's opening up family offices here and you're a commodity business. So I'm sorry, they don't care. So I think addressable market is one. Shoppable market is second, right? Or convertible market is second. That will define whether the population increasing or the business going up is actually going to make a difference. Yeah.
I think there's one other thing that I wanted to mention is recently, the last couple of months, I've had quite a few conversations on this topic where businesses that are successful, but they're quite large, they're not agile. They're very, like we said, talked about a little bit about red tape and procedure and process. And the consensus of those conversations were the startups are the ones that are going to drive innovation. They're going to be the ones that, get to that point before us. Reason being is because we're sluggish. We move a lot slower. We're a lot bigger. We can't go at 1 million miles per hour like a startup can. And some of those conversations as well have led to certain individuals, I can't name names or anything like that, but certain individuals going out and creating a separate vertical within their companies where all they're looking at is startups, what they're doing, what is the next thing in the market that's related to their industry, and potentially bringing that startup,
corporate venture funding.
Yeah.
What's interesting? The point that you bring up is today. So earlier on, when fintechs came into the scene, fintechs and banks were constantly fighting. Every fintech wanted to be a bank and every bank wanted to be a fintech. Today, they're partnering more than they're fighting, right? And you'll actually see that in the ambition of every bank today, it is to be more fintech than traditional bank. And that's why they're building their teams around it. They're partnering, they're buying. Every telco wants to become a tech co because they want to feel that they're in that space, right? Visa and MasterCard today are not payment companies, they're technology companies, right? So I kind of feel like if you look at this space of startups and entrepreneurial spirit in the market in general, driving change, driving behavior, driving mindset is super important. Every retailer today wants to have the e-com edge or the digital edge because they want to own that customer journey and also provide the best customer experience. But today, this is what it comes back to. Do you own the data? Do you consume the data in the right way? Do you drive insights in the right way? And how does that drive your business at the end of the day?
What would you suggest is the best sort of framework in an organization that wants to innovate? Is it setting up an innovation hub inside the business? Is it getting the people doing the BAU to come up with ideas and kind of part some of their hours to digital transformation or innovation or research?
I think it's hybrid. Like I've seen both work. So I would say, just based on my experience, if you've got a huge team and everybody's not at capacity, like everybody's not drowning, then yes, they should also be in charge of 20% of your day, 20% of the week goes into innovation, goes into thinking out of the box, monthly everybody needs to present. You could have hackathons, people present their ideas, people compete. You can do that when there is, and that actually like breeds more space for thinking out of the box as well. Say you've got a very small setup and your costs are extensive, your fixed costs are high, so you've got a smaller team, very agile, nimble team. But that team then, if they're in charge of innovation and running business as usual, then innovation is just going to take a little longer, right? But, and this is how startups will take time, need investment, need more people, right? But if this is not a startup, it'll just take more time. I think that in smaller setups, to avoid fatigue and failure, because I think we discount fatigue to a great extent. I think we believe we're all superhuman and we can do it all. And it's great to have ambition and to have that inspiration, but reality can hit really fast. So I would say that keeping the lights on is a small team. Building for the future, different team. They both obviously need to coordinate all day, every day, right? To be in sync. But if you have the space or if you have the time, then you could have a hybrid approach. It could be the same team. It could be external teams, added teams. I've seen multiple approaches work. But the one thing I've seen fail for sure, 1,000%, is a small team running to the bone already, running business as usual, now tasked with doing transformation. It will fail.
Yeah, some of those conversations I was going to say as well, they resulted in, like, as in, it's like, you know, as we get bigger, we bring in more policy, more procedures to make sure that we're going, you know, we might be regulated. So, you know, to meet those regs. Or it might be that we want more control over our corporate environment, should we say.
Correct.
Yeah. Or it's HR policy or whatever it is as we grow. But interesting that the people were basically saying, shall I stop? Yeah, stop. Yeah.
I think we're being drilled out of this room. Can we wrap up quickly?
No, that sounds going to be, yeah. There's no way you will be able to, like, that's going to overpower this.
What are they doing?
Yeah, I know. They're not listening, are they?
No.
It's because they're doing work next door.
It's because I think they said they could start again at 8.
It's 2 minutes, isn't it?
I thought they're 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh, okay. The only thing I was going to raise.
Hold on. We're good to go. Okay, let's start again.
All right. So I was going to raise a point where the actual leaders, they felt that the constraints within their organization was holding them back. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like you believe in the policies, procedures, and doing business correctly, but you also believe in going at 100 miles per hour. So it's like as though you lean upon organizations that are outside that don't have those constraints in order to bring that innovation in. It's like as though you're breaking your own rules in order to innovate. That's how that's the conversations that that's what it kind of the consensus was in the end, shall we say? But
in that sense, in that example, are you thinking of, or is that scenario where the company's thinking of transformation or innovation as a project? They're not thinking of it as a living, breathing system that will evolve through the journey, right? Because if you think of it as a project, then it has a start, it has an end.
Yes.
And therefore, your thinking is it just needs 2 people, it needs 20 hours, it'll end, and then everything goes back to normal. But that's when transformation or innovation will fail. It's not a project. And I think a lot of people make this mistake. And this is why a lot of it fails.
I think it's more to do with if you adapt it into your day-to-day and your operations. It's like it's a sticking point. It's it's like your operations is your sticking point for the innovation.
Yeah.
The innovation, it can't happen because of your daily life. So it's like as though if you separate the two, you'll go a lot faster on the innovation side. Like if we say day-to-day activities and you're a really successful business and your next 3 years plan is X amount. If you hit those targets, then you've done well. Yeah. But with innovation, it's like as though, yes, we want to hit these 3 years. We want to hit these targets in the next 3 years. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world.
Right. But I think innovation is challenging the status quo. it is breaking the mold, right? Otherwise, you're not innovating.
Yeah.
So if you're going steady pace, current cost and speed of business is, you're going to hit your targets at the end of the year. You don't need to innovate. That's not an innovative mindset, right? It is, I'm hitting all my goals, but I'm not happy because I'm doing the same thing again and again.
Yeah.
The customer mindset is changing. The market is changing. My competition has evolved. Or I have this massive breakthrough that I believe the customer will love and the market will adapt over time. And therefore we need to do this, right? So there's some conviction, there's some dissatisfaction. You have to love to hate your product, right?
Right. I think there needs to be a consensus or a appetite from executive board level for that, for it to thrive and for people to come up with ideas and not be shot down for an idea that may, seem silly on the outset, but actually could be a really good idea.
I think you've hit the hammer on the nail, right? Because a lot of times in companies, especially large organizations, the execs expect, look, I'm really busy. I'm running the business. I've got 20 things to do. You're the innovative people that I've hired. Now you need to go figure out what it is, do it, test it, come and tell me. But I'm the one that's going to approve the budget. I'm going to approve this. I'm going to approve that. I have to take it to the board. And even though the execs may have the best intention, if things move slowly, innovation already dies, right? Or momentum's lost, or your competition's already delivered. So you're late, right? And so you're absolutely right. I think it's not endorsement. And I think this is where I've learned from my past, and especially as an exec, your endorsement is not enough. You have to lead it.
You have to be in the journey.
Yeah. You have to have skin in the game.
Yeah.
You have to own it.
I think also, because
that's exactly what I was talking about, Sumit.
Yeah.
It's basically it's separating it. It's like someone else is in charge.
Correct. But you also have a good point, right? Where the stickiness is important. So for example, if I want to use AI to do better demand forecasting, and it's a year-long project to get a, pretty gift bow tie ribbon on it. Instead, what if I took smaller steps and I said, I'm going to do a small little piece that allows me to forecast better for when inventory comes in, right? From wherever, from a dock into the warehouse. I've done that. Now speed times to warehouse have decreased. Great. That means it's getting more efficient. Okay. The next little bit I'm going to do, so that part is sticky now. The next little bit I'm going to do is, how do I get pick, pack, and ship based on the customer order really quickly? So AI can transform that journey of, you've got your hottest selling items that are constantly sold, market basket analysis together in this one section, right? And this works well for commodity businesses like grocery or whatever. And that's where it's going to be placed. So then you can fulfill orders a little faster. Let's just say, again, a little bit. Yeah. If I flip it and I make it customer facing to say, I want to increase conversion rate by personalizing to a point where I know that if someone has bought, I have profile analysis, and predictive modeling says if someone's bought that shirt and the trousers, they're going to buy the belt as well. So I'm going to show them the belt or the scarf or a hat or a wallet, and then they're going to convert. I'm going to do this for conversion rate, and you can measure it. And if conversion rate does increase, it acts as a sticky factor again. So I think these things over time, even with a small team, even with the same business as usual team trying to do innovation, can help. Mm-hmm. But again, you have to set realistic targets. You can't say I'm going to go from 0 to 100 in a month.
Yeah.
And I think it's also balancing expertise and skills and experience as well in the team.
Absolutely.
If you haven't got it and you haven't got it in-house, then okay, well, we may have to go out.
Yeah. Do you upskill people? Do you hire people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're sort of almost up on time. I've got one more question for you. What changes in the next 12 to 18 months should leaders be looking out for in the region?
Oh, I've got some crazy ideas, but
I like the crazy ideas. Let's go for a crazy idea.
I think so. I can speak to my industry, right? I think commerce is going to be, or I believe commerce is going to be more conversational. Commerce is going to be more abstract in the sense that agents will be shopping for you based on your user behavior. And all you have to do is approval, yes or no. And I can say that with absolute conviction because we're already building something of that sort, right? Where you remove the friction point from me as a customer to find, discover, search, add to cart, and then say, oh my God, the size isn't there. I've spent all this time for nothing, right? I think if the agents or agentic modes know my usage pattern, purchase pattern, what I buy, when I buy. If it's a commodity, I buy diapers for my kids. How often do I need it? It can also have the assessment to say my kid's growing, so the diaper size has to change. This was my pet peeve with Amazon back in the day, right? Where you have a subscription model, but the child keeps growing, but the diaper size is the same.
Yeah.
So this was my pet peeve. This is something we're changing in one of our businesses as well. So I think 1, it'll be very conversational. 2, it'll be abstract where friction is being removed. 3, I think customers will be more intelligent or savvy about where they share their data, how they share their data, and what they get back for it. So they will want a higher level of service. They will want more personalization, or they would want to own their identity of where it is being used. So in that sense, I think the power is going to shift from brand to retailer back to customer quite significantly over time.
Yeah, I want to be able to see, I go onto a retailer website. I want like a personal assistant where I go, this is my budget. These are the types of designs that I like. This is kind of the outfits that I like. Go shop for me on your website. Come back to me with, okay, I've got 3,000 dirhams. Come back. These are the outfits you've got. This is the sizing because I know you as a customer.
In 6 months, I will send you a link to it now.
I love that. Love that.
That's where your demand's going to come from for the day you send this.
It's me. I'm going to be. But on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed that conversation.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really did appreciate it.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah. Likewise, Sai. And to everyone, thanks for listening again. Please like, subscribe. Where can people get hold of you? What's the best way if they've got
LinkedIn.
questions? LinkedIn?
Yeah,
we'll put your LinkedIn in the show notes.
Sure.
So, thank you very much. Been good.
Thank you so much for having me and best of luck.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Cheers, guys.
We managed to get